I always think, a photo is worth 1,000 thoughts. I mean, it just, and a video must be worth 1,000,000. So I stand here today as a mother, a wife, an athlete, a cancer thriver, and a storyteller. So you saw what I did, right? And I'm going to tell you kind of how I did it, or I'm hoping to be able to tell you how I did it. In 2002, one of my nieces came to me and she said she was going to go run the Chicago Marathon. And I thought, I am the athlete in the family, and if she's going to go run that marathon, I'm going to go with her and I'm going to run it faster. And so she and I take off to Chicago and rerun the marathon, and I hate to tell you, but I did take her down. Yeah, there you go. So I went on to run a few more marathons, and I qualified for Boston. And in 2006, I'm on the treadmill. I'm training for Boston. It's a Sunday afternoon, and the Ironman program World Championship comes on the television. Now, this show features the professional athletes, the elite age groupers, and then it'll take maybe 4 or 5 inspirational stories from around the world, and they'll tell those athletes' stories. And this particular year, the story that just, it stuck with me, was about a gentleman named John Blaze. And this man was in his early 30s, and he had ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease. And he had left-sided weakness, but it was his, let's say, make-a-wish, his dream, his goal was to do that world championship. And he said, no matter what, even if he had literally crawled to the finish line or roll across the finish line, he would do that. And so that day, 16 hours into the race, he's coming down the finishing chute, and he comes up to the finish line, and he literally gets down and he log rolls across. His parents came and they laid down there with him, and the tears just came down my eyes. And to this day, there are pro athletes and age groupers that will log roll in his honor. He left this legacy. He passed away a year later. It's amazing. But I saw that and I thought to myself, I want to do an Ironman. So I quickly went upstairs, told my family, I'm going to do an Ironman. And they looked at me. I know what they were thinking. She's crazy, right? I thought, you know what? I've always been a little crazy, so this is no different. And that's what I did. In 2008, I went to Louisville, Kentucky, and did my first Ironman. And in case you don't know, an Ironman is a triathlon. A triathlon is 3 sports: swim, bike, run. There's 4 distances. An Ironman's the longest. 2.4-mile open water swim, 112-mile bike, and then you run a marathon, 26.2-mile run. And people will ask me, you mean you do one of those in a day, right? Like 3 days. Like, no, all in one day. So I go to Louisville and I do my first Ironman, and I end up coming out 5th in my age group and the 4th place woman qualified for Kona for that world championship. So I thought, having that little competitive spirit that I mentioned earlier, maybe I could do this. Maybe I can be better. Maybe I could qualify. And that became my dream or my goal. I took that year and I really focused on my training. Something wasn't right. I just didn't feel, I just didn't feel up to, I thought, well, maybe I'm a year older. Maybe I've overtrained. I had a foot injury that wouldn't heal. And then I started having some bleeding when I went to the bathroom. Now, if any of you have seen a road bike or a tri-bike, the seat that we sit on is literally about that big, right? So I sat there and I thought, well, I'm riding 100 miles at a time. Anybody that's sitting on that little seat, probably other people are having issues too. So I kind of chalked it off. But I did say, after I finished the race, if I'm not feeling better, I'll go see a doctor. And that's what I did. September 18th, 2009, 2 weeks after I finished that second Ironman, I woke up from the colonoscopy, and in the snap of a finger, my whole life changed. I knew I had cancer in my colon. They sent me off to have some CAT scans done. I went home after that. I went on the internet. Wrong thing to do, right? If you want good news, man, you do not go on the internet. Googled the American Cancer Society, colon cancer, stage 1, 2, 3, stage 4. Had a 5-year survival rate at that time of 6%. I closed down the computer and I said, you know what, that's not me. There's no way that's me. That night I got the phone call, and it was the doctor, and he said, Teri, it's gone from your colon to your liver, 2 golf ball-sized tumors. Right away I thought, oh, this is it. I'm dead. I mean, maybe months. I don't know if I'm lucky. Maybe more than that. And right then I had this vision of my daughter, who you saw in the video. And it was her wedding day. And there she was standing in this room, and there was this full-length mirror in front of her. And my 2 sisters were standing there next to her. And they looked at Katie and they said, Katie, if your mother was here today, she would tell you how proud she is of you. She would tell you that you're beautiful inside and out. She would tell you that one day you are going to be a fantastic mom. Two days later, I thought, you know what? We better go to church. I'm going to get everything in order here, right? So my husband and I and the rest of the family, we go to church, my daughter and my son. And that day, they told, the message actually was a story. They told a story. And it was about 2 individuals, a woman named Maria and a Marine, and they were going to go run an ultramarathon. Now, an ultramarathon can be different distances. This particular one, 135 miles. They have 45 hours to complete it. So you can have a team of people that are there to support you during this race. They drive a van, they do your nutrition. You can jump in and rest, maybe a massage therapist or PT or physical therapy, whatever you need to finish this race. Well, the day of the race comes, Maria had one person, one individual to help her. The Marine, he had all the Marines in his troop, in his unit. They said, you know what, man, we will train with you, we will drive your van, we will do everything we can to get you from the start to the finish. They take off. The Marine gets to like mile 56. He's done. He needs IV fluids, he's disqualified. Here comes our girl power, right? Maria now, she's at like mile 80. And those Marines, they hear that she just has one person there to help her. So they go up, they get in their van, and they catch up with her. She has blisters all over the bottom of her feet. She has no toenails left. She's wearing Tevas. And literally, 2 Marines on each side of her bend down, they lift her up, they stand her up. They form this half circle around her. And somehow, some way, without physically advancing her, she gets to the finish line, breaks the tape. First thing she did was look at those Marines, and she said, you know what? I couldn't have done it without each of you. I couldn't have done it without all of you. That night, 72 hours into this diagnosis, I woke up. Well, I don't even know if I ever got to sleep, but I just remember I felt I was so full of fear, and my insides it was like a snow globe on steroids. And all of a sudden I had this kind of epiphany. I thought, oh, what if I built an army? What if I asked for help? I thought I was really pretty much a badass, right, up to this point. So that's what I did. I put out the call to action. I asked that next morning. I put out this call. Who wants to join my army? My best friend said she'd be a sniper. She'd go out there. She'd take any bullet for me. Seriously. Lots of snipers. Snipers are good. Foot soldiers, mess hall people, prayer warriors. In fact, I was reminded the other day, those prayer warriors are still working really hard on overtime. How blessed am I? So that's what I did. I formed this army. I never gave up that dream of going to Hawaii, of doing that Ironman. And so in the middle of the night in 2011, this was after I went through 2 years of heavy chemo and surgeries and radiation and all this, been placed on maintenance chemo, I decided to sit down and write this email to Ironman and ask, hey, maybe I could get one of those spots. Maybe I could be a featured athlete. Type up this email. Dear Ironman, and I got to tell you, I played the cancer card, right? How many do we have? 52 cancer cards, right? So I played one right there. I said, look, I have stage 4 colon cancer, 5-year survival rate of 6%. I have 3 things on my bucket list. I challenge all of you, if you haven't thought about your bucket list, please do. Amazing. Number 1, I said I want to live long enough to celebrate 25 years of marriage. I think we're on 30. Yeah. I said I want to live long enough to see my son and my daughter get married, my dream, not theirs. And I'd love to participate in the 2000 World Championship Ironman. So I turn 50 next month. Will you make my dreams come true? I got an email back the next morning. I always say it was better than winning the lottery. My husband said he wished he would have had the money. So 3 months later, I take off to Kona. 35 members of my army, Teri's troops, my friends, my family, my doctors went with me. And what you witnessed was a dream coming true, crossing that finish line. And hopefully what you felt was the accomplishment of truly a big dream, a big, bold dream coming true. Hope, H-O-P-E, hope, the acronym that I use is how ordinary people endure. A lot of people will say what I did was extraordinary. Or they'll tell me, Teri, you are extraordinary. What you're doing is extraordinary. And let me tell you, I've been called a lot of things in my life, and usually not very kind things, but extraordinary was never one of them. So I decided to look up what extraordinary meant. And it's actually ordinary with the word extra in front of it. And so I thought, you know what? I can be ordinary with the extra in front of it. In fact, everyone in this room can be extraordinary. As I was in the middle of treatment, I would do other races, and I decided to run a half marathon in St. Louis. And I would, when I had the heavy chemo, I would come home. At the time, now the pumps are much smaller, but at the time I had a huge pump. I would come home with this chemo running in me for 48 hours. I have a port right here. And one of the things I felt comfortable doing was going to the grocery store. So I got to know the store manager there, and he was a guy in, I don't know, probably his early 40s. He also was training for the same half Ironman as me. It was in St. Louis in April. And this particular year, it was pretty warm, the weekend of the event. So 2 weeks after the race, I'm in the frozen food section, and there comes the manager, and he's like, hey, how'd your race go, Teri? And I'm like, you know what? It was fantastic. I mean, I try and live in this attitude of gratitude. So when I get to this finish line, it's 90%. And when I run the race, I'm just thrilled to be there. And when I finish, whoa, that's a bonus, right? So I look at him and I say, well, how did your race go? Oh, it was so hot that day. I'm like, yeah, I know it was hot. He goes, no, it was really hot. I'm thinking, yeah, I know. Whatever. Because I had this time I wanted to make, and my nutrition was off. And so I got to mile 9, and I quit. And I go, you quit? So now he felt about this big, right? So he goes on his way, and I go on mine, and I'm in the checkout lane, and I feel this tap on my shoulder. And I turn around, and there he is. He's offering me a gooey butter cake, which I take because I just love sweets. And I think it was his penance, his asking for forgiveness or whatever, because he didn't finish the race. But he looked at me, and he said, I want to tell you one thing. I am never, ever going to quit again. I'm never going to quit again. And as I left, I thought to myself, we all have a mile 9 in our life. or maybe many mile nines. And it's, what are you going to do when you hit your mile 9? What's your game plan? What do you have in place? Are your friends going to be there? Your family? Your faith? There was a woman named Diana Nyad. Anybody familiar with her, the endurance swimmer? Yeah, another girl power. So she wanted to swim from Cuba to Key West, 110 miles. It took her 70 hours. She attempted the first time in her early 20s, never gave up that dream. In her 60s, she attempted it, I think 4 or 5 more times. The last attempt, she succeeded. Can you imagine she coming up out of that water on the beach? Can you imagine, what her legs must have felt like? People were trying to help her, support her. She pushed them away, pushed them away, pushed them away. She wanted the world to know 3 things. She held up 3 fingers. Remember how swollen her face was? From the jellyfish, yeah. 3 things. She said, number 1, you're never too old, and I like to say you're never too young to accomplish your dreams. Number 2, never alone. You can't do it alone. She had a whole team working for her. I had my army. I had my faith. And number 3, never, ever, ever give up. Never give up. I really believe that in order to keep something, you have to give it away. So today, I want to give you my hope. The Ironman motto is anything is possible. The Teri Griege mantra is powered by hope. So if you leave here with one message today from me, it would be anything is possible, powered by hope. Thank you.